Hey, this is Dan Moralez, and this is Homebuyer Radio, episode number 16. And this week I wanted to talk about mortgage documentation and just cooperation. Now, I know we talked a little bit about this in some of the prior episodes, but I wanted to maybe harp on what happens as part of the mortgage process and why you, as a home buyer, play the biggest role on the team when it comes to getting your loan approved. So when you look at your mortgage team, myself as your loan officer and my lending assistants and my processor and my underwriter and my closer, the biggest and most important person on the team, if you will, the head coach of the team is you, the client. You are the person that really is going to dictate how this process goes, how quickly it moves, and how smooth it is. Now, one of the things I like to tell people is, the mortgage process can seem like a little bit of a pain because there's a fair amount of documentation that's required as part of that process. And sometimes clients are like, why do you ask for so much documentation? This just seems like it's a big pain, and a lot of this is unnecessary and good stuff like that. Now, what happens is when we put your loan together for final approval, it all comes down to documentation. Now, we've put some really neat things in place to hopefully try to make that process of gathering documentation a little bit faster. We've tried to automate different pieces of that so that we don't require hopefully as much documentation from you compared to what we have in the past. However, there's still times where we need some documentation from you in order to be able to get your loan approved and across the finish line. So super important that you cooperate. Your cooperation will make this process move quickly and as fast as possible. I always tell folks, there are times where we're going to ask for documentation that doesn't necessarily make sense, but please trust that there's a reason why we ask for some of the documentation we do, and it generally has to do with the fact that it's going to help us to connect the dots for an underwriter. The better a file is documented and the easier it is for an underwriter to connect the dots, the quicker and easier your loan process is going to be, the faster the process is going to be for getting your loan approved. Where if we are missing documentation or we can't necessarily connect the dots for an underwriter like we'd like to, then sometimes when a loan goes into an underwriter for approval, the underwriter looks at it and starts to wonder why we're missing pieces of documentation. And when those pieces of documentation are missing, they can oftentimes lead to additional questions or the need for additional information from an underwriter as part of the loan approval process as well. Now, it's not uncommon for an underwriter to ask for some additional documentation, even after we've submitted your loan for approval. So if that does happen, don't be alarmed. That's just part of the process, and we try to hopefully anticipate everything that an underwriter is going to ask for and make sure that we have everything when we submit your loan for approval. There are times where an underwriter may still come back and ask for some additional follow-up pieces of information. So if that happens, don't be alarmed. Just cooperate and make sure you get the information into us as quickly as possible so that we can keep your loan moving and get your loan approved as quickly as possible. So again, this has been Homebuyer Radio. This has been episode number 16. My name is Dan Moralez with Northpointe Bank. My NMLS number is 709-729, and Northpointe Bank is an equal housing lender.